This year, I read a total of 144 books. Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Uchenna and I'm a Nigerian-based digital content creator, and on this channel I talk about everything books. So if you're looking for book recommendations, reviews, or you're looking to build like a reading habit, this is the right channel for you. And to my OGs, welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the books I read in 2023 and also giving you my top reads for 2023. So let's get into it. 2023 is such an interesting reading year for me because this year I read a total of 144 books. Although my initial reading goal for this year was 50 books because I felt that I would have enough time to read. But look at me, lucky me, I was able to read 144 books across different genres, and most of the books I read, the moods were emotional, reflective, funny, and sad. Like those are the top moods for this year. For the genres, topping on the list is contemporary, followed by the LGBTQIA+. Then we have the literary fiction, and we have the romance genre, then YA, which is young adult genre. The first book I read in 2023, Invisible Life of Adelore. This book is 10/10 across the board. I highly recommend, and this was like the first book that I read in 2023. It was a masterpiece. In the Company of Men, this was such an emotional and sad book because the whole story was centering around the Ebola outbreak. It was a good read and I do recommend you check it out. If an Egyptian cannot speak English by Naga, this book, I honestly did not enjoy this book as much as I thought I would. It was just like a mere book and it wasn't memorable at all. Someday maybe. This book, honestly, I would say it's kind of conflicting always for me to review this book because it centers on grief, and there's no one way for humans to grieve. There are different ways we grieve. It was not like a masterpiece hit for me, but I do recommend you to check it out. XOXO, this is a YA romance read and I enjoyed every bit of it and I highly recommend you check it out. On Ajayi Crowther Street, this is a graphic novel and this book was good. If you're looking for a book that represents Nigeria like in an authentic way, you should actually check out this book. It's a 10/10 across board. It happened one summer. This is a romance read that I read because of TikTok, and honestly, the TikTok girlies came through with this one. I enjoyed it, so you should actually check it out. Love and Other Words. This is another romance book I read because of TikTok, and I really wanted to see why this book was making waves like everywhere, which wasn't bad. I read it, I enjoyed it. If you love romance book, this is one of those books that I would actually recommend to you. Dating Dr. Dew. This is a romance read, but I'm laughing because I could remember the chaos in this book. I enjoyed it and I do recommend you check it out. You Had Me at Holla. This is another romance read that I enjoyed reading, although it's not like a memorable book like 10/10 across the board, but it's a book that I definitely recommend for you to check out if you're looking for a nice romance read. Patience is a Subtle Knife. This is a book that honestly I did not enjoy it as much as I thought I would. It was an okay read and I always have conflicting interests recommending this book because it was just there for me. It was not giving what it was supposed to give. Since They Lost, this book I would not recommend because I honestly was supposed to DNF this book, but then I wanted to finish the book to the end to see what happened, which I felt was a waste of time for me. Nope. A Touch of Darkness. This is where Greek mythology meets romance. This is one of those books, and also it's a TikTok recommendation book that I read, and it was not bad. It was nice. It was just not a memorable book for me. We Deserve Monuments. This is a YA read. I actually had a good time. It didn't felt like a waste of time, which you can check out. Dear Sundaran. This is a memoir and this book was 10/10 across the board. I enjoyed it, I loved it, and I respected the author more when I read this book. The Foghorn Echoes. This is one of those emotional queer books that you read and you just feel so sad for the characters. I enjoyed it and I do recommend you to check it out. Meet Cute Club. From the title and from the cover alone, you know it's two lovers around a book club setting, and it was good, it was nice, I enjoyed it. Financial Feminist. This is one of those books that deals on money, which wasn't a bad read. It's just that most of the things that are said in this book, I already know some of them. I'm Glad My Mom Died. This is a must read. You should check this out. Deborah Lee. This is a memoir. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't memorable at all for me. You are only just beginning. I did not enjoy this book, and I did not recommend for you to check it out, and that's on period. Thank you. Thank you for listening. If you know the author of this book by William, you will know that she's very good when it comes to narrating audiobooks. This book, I listened to it and I enjoyed every bit of it, so you should check it out. Counterfeit. This book, anytime I think about the characters in this book, I feel like giving all of them a knock. Like, I should not knock them on their head, but I like it. It was not a memorable book, but it was a nice book. I enjoyed it. Yes. Nerd Crush. This is a YA romance read. For the review, not really worth it. Next, I have some questions for you. This book, I could remember this book was going so well. It was going so well, and at some point this book failed to deliver what it's supposed to deliver. Like, it failed the mission, and I was so pissed because of that. In all, I would not highly recommend for you to check it out. The Obsession. This book, I'm a fan of the author of this book, and I really had high hopes for this. It didn't really give what it's supposed to give. Like, it didn't feel like the author's book, but it was a good read, and I recommend you check it out. Culminator. This is a nice read, and it was good, so I would recommend you also check this out. Bookish People. Nope, because it was not memorable for me. Like, it's one of those books that I'm like, what really happened? Next. Near-Death Lessons. This book, honestly, I did not expect this book to be good the way I loved it. I did not expect to love this book that way. If you love non-fiction book, or you're looking for those self-help books, this is one of those books that I highly recommend. I could remember taking screenshot after screenshot so that I could like save and come back to it later. The book was good. Forget Me Not. The title, Forget Me Not. The title was opposite Sha with the whole story, because I did forget this book. It was good. It was just an okay read. Dust Child. If you know me well, you know I'm a lover of this author, and any book she's writing, I am reading. Now, this was good. This was emotional. I felt it, but it did not give the way I expected it to give. It's not 10 across the board. It was given 9 over 10, but in all, I still recommend you read this book. Lost Her. This book, most people like, nope, don't read it. But me, I would say read it. Yes, it was good and I enjoyed it, period. A Little Life. If you haven't read this book, sorry, I wonder what you're doing. Although this book is very heartbreaking, emotionally destroying, but it's a good book, and I highly recommend you read this. The Impatient. This book was good. I highly recommend you check this out. I enjoyed reading it. Butter Honey Pig Bread. Honestly, this book, I should have read this book since. I wonder why it took long, but in all, it was 10 over 10 across the board. I enjoyed it, and I do highly recommend, I put highly recommend you check this one out. Harry Sylvester Bed. This book, sorry yo, it was just not giving for me. No, I did not enjoy it. One True Loves. This is a nice read. See the way I'm smiling, right? I recommend for you to read this one. Like, when you anything has to do with Taylor Jenkins read books, just stick it on your list. Jello Fries and Other Revolutions. This book, I will never forget a particular scene in it.
He puts me for mattress, begin they shook me. As they shook me, the thing sweet me well. I begin they shout, oh.
But this book was good. It's a collection of short stories, and I do recommend you read this. The Condom and Other Stories. Now, this book, the author was trying to do too much. He was trying so hard to make this book to come alive, but it was not just working at all. So I don't recommend. Forever Interrupted. This was a nice emotional romance read. It did not bank like 5 over 5 for me, but you should check this out. It was good. I recommend. The Unfortunate. This is a YA read where the main character was trying to like navigate her life as a student and everything. It was not bad. It's an okay read. The Death of Vivek Ochi. Finally, I read this book this year, and this book was good. It was good. It was mind-blowing. You know how you just blew your head? Boom. That was what happened in this book, and I enjoyed it. I highly recommend. When Trying to Return Home. This is a collection of short stories. It was just a mere read for me. Like, it didn't hit at all. Peaches and Honey. This is a romance read, but it was mediocre. Sorry, that's just the word for it. Like, if you don't read this, you're not missing out on anything. Life After Love. Nope, because I had issues with the men. Like, a human being and a ghost dating, and it became so complicated, and the math was not just mathing. So no, please, Gigi listening, if you're a lover of Kevin Kwan's book, you'd actually love this one. It was nice. I enjoyed it. It all adds up. If you're looking for money books, those most financial books, don't pick this one. You don't need it. Thank you. Home Buddies. This book, I enjoyed it. It was nice, and I do recommend for you to check it out. Like a Sister, this is a thriller mystery book. I did had a good time reading it, but it was not just a memorable book for me. Nick Blake and the Remarkables is like an adventurous read, and it's a middle grade book also. I had a good time. I enjoyed reading it. If you're looking for a book that you would gift a middle grade, this book, it's one of those books. The Fiancé for Sale. This book was nice. I enjoyed it, and I do recommend you to check it out. Maybe in another life. This book was good. It was good. After I Do, this is an emotional romance book, and I really did enjoy it. You should check it out. I recommend, like highly recommend. Daisy Jones and the Six. This book, get the audiobook. You would love it. Just get the audiobook. You would love it. Evidence of the Affair. This book, see, just read it. It's a short book, but it was nice, and the whole drama, I was just laughing. You should check it out. Everyone in this room will someday be dead. I like this book because the character felt relatable. Like, not having your life figured out. Everything's just like this, one way or the other. In general, it was a good book. I do recommend you check this out. When Bread Becomes Air. This book, I had to take a pause, because this book did this to me. Like, you sit down, you start questioning life. You know that this life back, forget anything can happen. I highly recommend you read this book. Yes, Daddy, this is a queer book, and you love little life and books that you have twins and stuff like that. Let's check this out. What We Lose. This book, I did not enjoy it because the story in this book felt disjoint. It wasn't properly well written, and you are not missing out if you don't read this book. The New Girl is the book 2 of The Obsession, and as always, I did enjoy this book, but it just didn't bang as the author's book usually do. I Can't Date Jesus. This is a memoir, and I had a nice time reading this one. It's not something that I would highly recommend. If you find the title interesting, you should check it out. Vera Wrong, Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. This book is one of those books that made me love older characters, like older people that are so funny and interesting in books, and I enjoyed it. I do recommend you check it out. Hannah Crane Carries On. This is one of those books that I really had a good time reading. I liked it, but it was not just a memorable book. You should still check it out, although. 10 minutes 38 seconds in this strange world. This book blew my mind. This book was the first book I get to read by Elif Shafak, and I highly recommend you check this one out. Love After Love. This was nice. This was okay. This was good. It's a reread. Due to how I felt about the book, I loved it. I read it again this year. It's a Caribbean read, and I do recommend you check it out. The 40 Rules of Love. This was nice, but it didn't bang the way the first book I read banged. Atomic Habits. Finally, I read this book, and I would recommend if you're looking to like building a new habit, just as the title says. Honestly, that's what this book is just about, to give you that push that you actually need. The Paper Palace. This book took me unexpected. I enjoyed every bit of it. I loved it. I still could remember that a particular character died in this book, and I was so happy because I was waiting for this character to actually die, because God. In general, read it. I highly recommend. Transcendent Kingdom. This is the second book by this author I'm reading, and I did enjoy this one. You should check it out. The Family Tree. This is a multi-generational historical fiction. I loved every bit of it. What a book. I do recommend you check it out. Don't Answer When They Call Your Name. This book, it was nice. It was such an easy read. I do recommend you check this out. All My Mothers. It was an okay read. Middle Daughter. If you're looking for an African fiction to read, just pick up this one and read it. Or brace yourself. I felt the end before it came. This book, I didn't actually have any expectations, but still, it didn't meet up to any expectations. If you don't read this book, you're not missing out at all. The Do's and Donuts of Love. This is a YA read, and I did enjoy it. I do recommend. Big Swiss. This is one of those literary books that was quite interesting reading, and I did enjoy it. Love Theoretically. This book was my first book by this author. It was quite interesting. I enjoyed it. It's a romance read. From the cover, you could tell, and I do recommend. How to Kill Men and Get Away with It. This book had so much potentials, but it failed because this book was supposed to give, from the title, it was supposed to bang, but it was an okay read. Yellow Face. This book I highly recommend. Just read it. She Gets the Girl. This is one of those square white a book. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't just a memorable book for me. The Three of Us. This book, I was so annoyed. I was hoping at the ending something reasonable would, everything would make sense, but at the ending it just didn't make sense. Under the Udala Tree, this was such a good book. It's a queer African literature, and I really enjoyed reading this book. I'm So Not Over You. Don't read this book. Naturally Tan. This was a nice read. If you love fashion, you could get good recommendation from this book. Beyond the Gender Binary. This is quite an informative book when it comes to like gender, and I do recommend you check it out. Killers of a Certain Age. This book was nice. It was good. You know, when these older characters, like older people, are bad as people. This is the book, and I do recommend you check it out. A Spell of Good Things. This is one of the anticipated African literature for this year, and as always, as expected, the book delivered. It gave what it's supposed to give. I do highly recommend. Untamed. I see no reason why this book should exist. I did not enjoy it at all. Thank you. The Couples Counsel. If you're in a relationship and you're looking on ways you could like strengthen your relationship and relationship tips, this is one of those books. You should check it out. The Poison Heart. This is a YA fantasy book, and I did enjoy it. Like, I enjoyed reading this book, and I do recommend. The Wicked Fate. This book, I did not really enjoy it the way I enjoyed the book one. Night Crawling. This book, it was good. It was nice. I remember, I was pained. I was sad. It's one of those books that you should still read. I recommend. People Person. I see the verse for the characters. Reading this book. I even prefer the also previous book, Queenie, to this one. Queenie. This is a nice book. I enjoyed it. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would because of the reviews I've been saying. I do recommend for you to read it. Wandering Souls. This book, it's such an emotional book and very reflective and sad. I do recommend you check it out. Brown Girls. This book was nice. It was good. I do recommend you read this. Hola Papi. Not recommended. Waste of your time. Just drop it. Andrea and Santi were here. I had a good time. Like, just read it. Check it out. A Very Typical Family. This is a contemporary read, and it wasn't a waste of time at all, which I do recommend. You should also read it. Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute. This was interesting. I wasn't expecting to love this book the way I actually did. At some point, it felt like, it's going down, but in ending, in general, after everything, I loved it. Promise Boys. This is a YA thriller. It's a nice read. It's an okay read. I do recommend. And then He Sang a Lullaby. This is a queer literature. You should definitely read this. Just get it wherever you see it. The List. This book, it was not bad, but I was pissed. I was annoyed at the ending. That's just it. Still read it. Icebreaker. This is where hockey and romance meet. I enjoyed it, but I felt this book was too long, and I was not just interested in reading book 2. Take Note. I think I read this book during the period where I was searching for some information about friendship, which it gave, but it wasn't as much as I wanted. Small Joys. This book, it's a queer book, and I enjoyed every moment of it. I enjoyed every bit of it. I highly recommend you check this out. Otto and Teddy Are Coming Out. This was a nice read, an okay read, like nothing too serious, and I did enjoy it. You should actually check it out if you're looking for something easy, not too serious, and like a queer literature to read. Ruthless. I highly recommend you check this one out. Like, there's no two ways about it. Just check it out. Just read it. Ace of Spades. Finally this year I read this book, and this book had me on a choke, like on a choke mood. I highly recommend you read it. Cleopatra and Frankenstein. This book, it was nice. It was good. I loved it. You should check this out. I recommend. Birthday. This is one of those books I read because of Heartstopper. There's one character in Heartstopper, Isaac, that was always reading a book, and this was one of those books that he read. And I said, okay, cool, I'm going to read it. It wasn't a waste of time, but it was not a memorable book for me. Love in Color. This book is nice. It was good. Finally, I read this book after years of having it, and the book sitting pretty on my shelf. Yeah, I read it. It was good. And I highly recommend if you're a lover of love, like if you are a lover of love, read this one. We Have Always Been Here. This is a memoir and I honestly did enjoy reading this book. I highly recommend. We Are Okay. This book, you don't really need to read it. If you don't read it, you're not missing out on anything. Educated. This book actually blew my mind. I was shocked. I loved it. So you should read it. Everything is figuratable. This book, it has been making wave on Instagram. I decided to read it. And I get why my faves love this book. I also do recommend. Before I let go, this is a romance book that would always have a place in my heart. I enjoyed it and I do highly recommend you read it. Kachufonu. This is one of those books that deals on femicide in Nigeria, especially from like the eastern part. I did enjoy it. It's an easy read. You would love it if you're looking for something light to read. The Ninja Wife. I enjoyed this book, but I did not like the way it ended. Like, I had issues with the ending. The House of Shells. This is a middle grade book and honestly I loved it, and I highly recommend you read this book. And also it's also great for gifting to middle grade kids that you have. If you have nieces, nephews, kids, this is a nice book that you should actually gift them. One Chance Dance. This is a nice adventure fiction book. It's a middle grade book and I had a nice time reading it. Onyeka and the Academy of the Sun. This is a fantasy middle grade book, and you know, I love it because I was there for all the black girl magic and black hair and everything that it represents. I highly recommend. Onyeka and the Rise of the Rebels. This is the book 2, and also I did enjoy reading this, and I'm looking forward to reading book 3 also. I Want to Die, but I want to eat toku boki. This book, it felt so real, it felt so relatable. It's like a conversation between the author and her therapist, and I did enjoy it. I loved it. You should actually check it out. Ace. This is a very thoughtful book and very informative about asexuality. I do recommend. House of Eve. This is a historical fiction and I did enjoy reading this book. It's definitely worth reading. The Song of Achilles. I finally read this book in 2023. It was good, it was nice. I had issues with the way it ended, but I still felt at peace to some extent because, you know, at the end, they were in a better place. It's a queer literature, and if you love like mythology kind of books, you should read this one. Well, that was unexpected. This book, it was not bad, but it was not just given the way the author books to give. Realizing Mental Resilience. If you're like a corporate baddie and you're looking for this self-help book, this is one of them. Under the Whispering Door. This is a nice read. I was pissed with the main character's behavior in this book. It was giving medicine after death. Really good actually. You know those books where the characters just living life without any specific roles, and I liked it. I do recommend you check it out. I'm Not Done With You Yet. This is a thriller mystery kind of book. It was nice. It's an okay read. Have we met? Please, you have not met with this book and don't meet with this book, and that is on period. Thank you. Love Offers No Safety. This is such an important book. I do recommend for you to check it out. 7 Days in June. I finally read this romance book this year and I am so glad I read it. It's definitely worth your time. You should read it. I highly recommend. Black Cake. Black Cake, I enjoyed every bit of this book. I enjoyed it. It's a historical book. I loved it, and I highly recommend for you to read it. Pet. This book, oh my god, I didn't even know what to expect because I avoided reading reviews of this book. It was good, it was nice. I loved the agenda that this book went for. I loved it, and I do recommend for you to read it. Lessons in Chemistry. This book was good. It was good, it was nice. I highly recommend you check this one out. Between the Head and the Hands. This is a queer literature, and this is one of those books that I keep thinking, like, I keep remembering this author because I knew that although these books are fiction, but at some point some of these writings or some of these experiences and stories are like from the author's life, and I keep thinking about this author, like what must have this author gone through for that author to write this kind of book. I honestly did not know the real pronunciation for this title, if it's Galati or Galati. But this book felt so short. I really wish it was longer. It's a nice book. As long as your lemon tree grows. This book was nice. It was good. I was only pained that in a crisis, you people are still thinking about love. You shouldn't be thinking about love. I know nobody should come and tell me that it's not them that do me. I don't want to know. You shouldn't be thinking about love in that circumstances that you people are in. I still recommend for you to read this. It was a nice book. It was one of those books that I was waiting for the characters to win at the end. Little Black Book. This book, honestly, I would not really recommend this book to women. I recommend this book to everyone. Like, you need ideas, especially those that are in the corporate world. This book will be of help to you. I do recommend. It's an easy read and straight to the point. Show your work. If you're creative, aspiring creative, read this book. Dazzling. This book was good. It's an African literature. Lovers of African mythology and magical realism would love this one. Although I did not really enjoy the book the way I thought I would. Like, I was like, this book would be like a 10/10 across board. Nothing. This will spoil it. But it was more than okay, but it was not a 5/5 star for me at all. Now, moving on to my top favorite books for the year 2023. Yes, so these are the books that are like top of my list, and they are like in no order. So first, there we have The Indivisible Life of Adelaide. I loved this book. It's a fantasy book. I really loved it. Then I have Just on the Run, which is a memoir. Next, I have A Little Life. This book. Read this book. Next, I have When Bread Becomes Air. It's a memoir. I love this book. Then 10 minutes 38 seconds in the Strange World. Next is A Spell of Good Things. We have Ace of Spades. We have Cleopatra and Frankenstein. The Songs of Achilles. Black Cake, a historical fiction. Everything Figurable. And He Sang a Lullaby, Killers of the Satin Age, and lastly, Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. So we have come to the end of this video. If you love it, please do give this video a thumbs up, and if you're yet to subscribe to the channel, please do click the subscribe button below, and also recommend the channel to people you know that love reading or they're looking for like recommendations and tips on reading. This is the right channel for them. Till I see you next. Bye.